Welcome to Talkin' Maine with a Bow Tie Boy. I have my favorite person on the show because he always responds when I need help. Mark.
Good to see you, Tom.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You're going to be a star.
Yeah, long time no see. What has it been? A couple of weeks?
Couple of weeks. And I ran into your boss the other day.
Oh,
she
yeah.
She came up to Janet Brother's funeral, and I told her, I said, hey, Mark's been doing great. She has? Yeah, he's been on like 4 times. He's my go-to guy.
She said she saw you. I told her I was going to be on this morning, and she said she just saw you this weekend.
We just saw her this weekend. So.
And thank you for the kind words.
Oh, that's easy. I appreciate it. You've been great, and it's good information. You have to tell Judy, though, that come sometime this summer, she'll have to come on.
I will. I will.
It's almost her turn again.
All right, I'll let her know. I'll warn her.
And she can bring her dog with her. Unfortunately, Henry is still on his last legs. He's still with us, but he doesn't come in anymore. Because the two of them, we both have doodles. Yeah. And they were both running around here when we did the first show together.
Yeah, Mason, I think, is 12 or 13.
Oh, Seamite's right up by Henry. Henry's 14.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's close.
Yeah, she's got 2 or 3 other dogs now, including a German short hair that I think helps keep Mason young.
Well, see, in Henry's case, I don't think another dog. My son has a dog that's a mutt.
Yeah.
When Baggy comes in the house, Henry just kind of looks at him and just goes back to sleep. They'll leave me alone. And Baggy's smart enough to know to leave him alone, although Henry wouldn't do anything for him.
That's funny.
And that reminded me of something I was going to ask you, but I forgot. Well, that was good. Anyway, so what do we talk about? We're going to talk about...
Well, the first thing I'd like to talk about is the flood. I know people are still impacted by it, and some people probably aren't getting the answers that they want or might be getting frustrated. So I wanted to let you know that next week, the week of the 13th, there is a plan to open up a FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association, Individual Assistance Center right in Farmington. There's 3 that are open up now. One is in Rumford, one is in Lewiston, and the other is in Skowhegan, and Franklin County is going to get their own. And it's going to be right in Farmington. It'll be open 8 to 6, 7 days a week. And you can go in there and apply for assistance or check on applications that you might have already put in. But it's going to be one-stop shopping for all your needs, concerning the flood. And I know people are still dealing with issues. Hopefully, people have kept their receipts, photographed the damage. These are all things that people will need. But if you go to Governor Mills' website, you can see flood assistance for the December storm. You click on that, and you can click on Franklin County. And you can go down through what's available for assistance for businesses, for homeowners, unemployment, and any of those things. If there's 8 available, there's a link there for it. And this individual assistance center is going to be able to help you either fill out applications or check on the status of applications.
And it's going to be. And what we'll do is when Andre gets a chance, we'll look up that website and run it right.
Yeah, I can send it right to
send
you.
It so we can run it right across our front screen.
Yeah.
And it's going to be personed by federal government.
Yeah, and talking with Maine Emergency Management Association, they say these first couple of weeks, these individual assistance centers are pretty busy, but then it kind of slows down. So don't be frustrated if you get there and it's really crowded. You could either wait or come back another time, but they'll be here for a while. I don't know exactly how long, but for multiple weeks.
That's great news.
Yeah.
And this is homeowners as well as businesses.
Yeah, and think about it, even... infrastructure is one thing when it comes to DOT, but I know that a lot of snowmobile clubs were impacted by the flood, and infrastructure that's essential to the recreational economy of places like Rangeley and Farmington, Strong and Kingfield. Think about that too. There's programs available for that. But really, if you were impacted by the flood and can document it through photos, through receipts, this is where you want to go.
So it would be the most recent flood, or is this going to go back to May?
No, it's going to be the most recent flood, the December 18th storm right before Christmas.
I mean, I know that the one after Christmas
Yeah.
That was a devastating flood, too.
Yeah, so, the plan is for, those back-to-back storms on January 10th and 13th really hammered the coast. There's going to be a similar site set up for that. The governor is looking to get both of those storms included as one. We'll see how that happens. But seeing some of the damage down there is pretty amazing. Popham Beach, my counterpart who works for the state parks, I've seen photos of it, but just amazing what was lost there as far as the dunes.
For hundreds of years. I mean, the places that were built are 100 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And they're gone.
Like fishing shacks or docks, in Port Clyde or South Portland, things, like you said, been there 100 years, washed away. We had over a 14.5-foot high tide that day along, in Cumberland and York County and up into Sagadahoc. Nobody had ever seen it. The closest thing to it was the blizzard of '78, which hit, Boston and then north. Tremendous flooding in Portland, but it was higher than that by over a half foot.
So and this is just a question that Christine and I have kind of talked about, when do you tell people they really shouldn't rebuild?
Or if you rebuild, you got to rebuild differently. Yeah. And, I think people have gone back and forth, is there such a thing as climate change? Well, I think we're experiencing it. Highest tide we've ever seen. We had horrendous, what people would call 2 100-year storms within 6 months of each other in April and in December. That's not 6 months, but my math isn't very good.
That's why you're a spokesman.
Yeah. And then, those back-to-back storms on, within a few days of each other in January on the coast. So, we are being impacted. And, I think people, when they rebuild, have to look at how they rebuild. And you can't just do things the way you always have. You have to look a little bit differently. If it's replacing culverts, they got to be that much bigger to handle these incredible, rain events that we're having. If you're on the coast, Portland, they're saying there was a bill in the legislature that's allowing people to build 3 feet higher, as far as docks are concerned, and wider. So they can withstand these type of storms. So, our world's changing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's just I watched my good friend, former Senator Bob Foley, and talking about the coast down in York County, where they've lost their seawall, they've lost everything, and he wants to put these socks in that you fill in with gravel that can buffer the thing. But my frustration is, okay, that works this time, but what about the next storm? And they get wiped out again. And as much as I want those people to have their place, and I put myself in them, if I had a camp on this water, obviously it's been in my family for hundreds of years, 100 years, I want to replace it. But what point do we as a society have to say, thank you very much, but you're in the wrong place now? And you look at all the projections of where the water's going to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like,
You see that at Camp Ellis down in Saco. My mom's from Saco, and I remember going there as a kid, and when the jetty was first put in, but you had, over 100 feet of beach. And now, it's like 2 rows of houses are gone. Yeah. Just swept into the sea. And, no relief in sight. And they're not letting some people rebuild.
So then if we rebuild these guys' walls, they got to let us onto the beach in front of their house that right now they say we can't use. So we make a trade here. We have a little negotiation.
Yeah, that's right. A little access in exchange for a little security.
It's interesting. I spoke to my Wilton Fire Department the other day and was talking to the guys. They pumped out 54 basements during this last storm. And I was close. In the last storm, I had my generators. I have a sump pump, and my generator started up great. And I was being really good about starting it once a month, to make sure it ran. But I never load tested it. So as soon as I plugged everything in, it goes. I go, oh no. Yeah. And I'd taken my time to go do the sump pump. Once I do this, it'll pump it right out.
Yeah.
No. And so what it would do is it would start for about 2 minutes. Enough to drain down the sump pump. Then it would stop. I could bail for a while, and then go back up and start it up again, and it would pump for the same thing. And fortunately, the guys at Farmers Union took it in and got it fixed, but I still was right on the edge. The water was just coming over the top and coming into my basement enough to make things wet. When John Black showed up with his little generator, that was enough to keep me going. But the volume of my water, every 13 seconds, my sump pump was turning on.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I mean, just to see it, and you just see the water rising, and there's nothing you can do. And there was no relief in sight, and it just kept coming. Our driveway got flooded. Fortunately, our culvert was able to handle it, but it went, well, not handle it. It went right over our driveway. We had about 6 to 8 inches of water that was flowing over our driveway. But because where it was going was kind of backed up, there wasn't a huge amount of current. But the next driveway down got washed out. And, you know, you see that water come up and you see the current coming, and there, you feel helpless. You know?
It was like, I mean, I literally had given up bailing because I couldn't keep up. I mean, you know, I was going up and down the stairs and I couldn't just do it. I came upstairs and I'm saying, what am I going to do? And then John comes in with this little generator and we got it going right away. And
I mean, the good thing is that, you know, there are programs available for people if they seek them out. And I think this, you know, individual assistance center is really going to help, and it's going to alleviate some frustration. People can get some answers. They can talk to real people. So I really will be a plus.
That's going to be good because that's guidance they're going to need because they need to go through all that stuff.
It gets going through all the red tape.
Bureaucracy.
Those government employees.
I know, they got to keep their jobs. It's okay. Right. I was kind of a part-time government employee.
That's right. Yeah, an elected part-time employee.
So what else is new?
Well, it's wintertime. You know, people are out ice fishing, snowmobiling, but you know, the ice isn't that great. Yeah. You know, we talk about climate change, and you know, usually this time of year, people are thinking about getting their ice auger extensions out. You know, the ice is that thick, but you know, this year, if you got 10, 12 inches of ice, you're probably the thickest ice in the state. It hasn't been a great year. You know, we had, you know, all that rain in December and January. So first, all the lakes were way up high. Any lake that has an outlet, there was current going through it, which made, you know, ice making, you know, even that much more difficult. And then, you know, it was warm into mid-January. So ice isn't great. People are out there, but really, people need to check the ice.
We've been fortunate, though. We've had one casualty. I know the gentleman that was the town manager.
There was actually one in Millinocket early December, and really the guy went out, it was probably like the 13th or 15th of December, and I think just went out too early. He and a friend, they figured the ice was safe, they could go ice fishing, but again, it just shows the need. You got to check the ice. You know, you can't tell how thick it is by just looking at it, and sometimes you see people out there and you're like, oh, it's safe, and then people go right out, but they don't realize there may be springs in front of their area or some type of current, or you know, maybe the wind was going that way most of the fall, so the ice isn't as safe, and you really need to check it.
And it's like Mount Blue Pond. We were talking about the type of ice. It's like I mean, last year it was such that you had some ice, then you had slush, then you had snow, then you had ice. It was a mess, and you broke through, but there was still 20 inches of ice up there last year. There's only 13 of this crap up there.
And, you know, like, usually you look for that hard, clear, not clear, but, you know, that bluish, blackish ice that's really solid. And, you know, this year you might have 3 or 4 inches of that, and then you've got that frozen slush that's frozen and refrozen, and it just doesn't support things like, you know, that hard black ice does. So, yeah, people need to be aware, especially this time of year. You know, already the sun's up higher, days are longer, you know, the sun beats down a little bit more, especially on those banks that are facing south. And, you know, the ice wears away, particularly near shore. So areas around points and islands where they're exposed rocks and things like that, those rocks heat up and you know, weaken the ice in that area.
Well, think about the springtime. Where's the first place you start to see water before ice out? It's right there at the shoreline. And I suspect that we have this tomorrow, the next 3 days of 50-degree weather, you're going to see some of that.
Right. And with, you know, all the water, all the rain we've had, springs and lakes are very active. And so, you know, they eat away the ice from underneath, and you can't tell. So, you know, make sure you check the ice before you go out. And if you know an area that, you know, near an outlet or inlet, or near known springs, stay away from that area. You know, there's plenty of places you can fish or snowmobile without having to go through there.
Last year, I went up to the pond and with Ben's friends were fishing, and he and I walked all the way down to the outlet because we hadn't done that. But I made sure that we got off the ice and walked in the woods long before we got close to that, because you could hear the running water.
Yeah.
Now, there may have been ice over it, but you don't get closer, and the next thing you know, you're up to your waist in water, and that's not a good thing.
No, it's no fun breaking through the ice. It's
when I was a kid, I was in New Jersey. There was a swamp that used to freeze over that we used to go ice skating on.
That's my experience with breaking through the ice.
Well, I didn't break through. I found this really great place. Nobody was there. Not a skate mark, and I'm skating along, and the next thing I know, I'm up to my waist in water.
Yeah.
Because there was no ice there. It didn't break through. There was just no ice. And I remember saying, "Oh my goodness!" And fortunately, my skates hit the bottom.
Yeah.
So I could pull myself up, and I remember, skating back to my father. I fell in, and everybody built a big fire, and they took my snow pants off. I must have been about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I remember that.
Same thing. I went after a puck. We were playing pond hockey, and it kind of went down, towards the area that we knew was bad, and everybody would take their turn. This time it was my turn. I went down there, and maybe I had eaten too much that day or whatever. I don't know, but I was the one who went through the ice, and all my friends got a good laugh, up to my waist, Went home later, tried to dry out as much as I could before my mom noticed, but that didn't work.
So we talk about some of the programs, other things, the programs that people might be interested in.
Yeah, so, one of the things that we've been doing more recently, and, or expanding what we've been doing, are community science projects. And reaching out to volunteers to help us with wildlife and fisheries management. And we've got a lot of programs that have been going on or ongoing or about to start where people can get involved. If you have a love for the outdoors, it's a great way to get outside and really help the department, help Fish and Wildlife, by being a citizen scientist, basically. And really doesn't take that much other than, documenting what you see. And we have a variety of programs. Probably one of our more popular ones was the Maine Bird Atlas and the Winter Breeding Bird Atlas, 2 different atlases that we did. But that just recently finished last year, but we had over 6,000 volunteers for that. Encompassing the whole state, and people who volunteered had a block, an area about 6 square miles where they could, I think it was actually 9.5 square miles, where they could go and try and document what they saw. And it was for birders of all ability. If you hadn't done it before, there were volunteers who were willing to teach you how to identify different types of birds. It was a tremendous success. Over 6,000 volunteers. We had identified over 200 different species of birds in the state. And we'll be coming out, now that it's completed, we'll be coming out with the new atlas. It's the first time in over 30 years that we did the atlas. And we've got, several new species of birds that, weren't here before, but as the climate changes, we've got things like cardinals coming in, turkey vultures. Those are birds that really weren't documented 30, 40 years ago here in Maine.
Remember, there are only 3 kinds of birds.
Yeah.
Brown birds, blackbirds, and eagles. So it's like, oh, geez, you found 3. So there must be 60 brown birds, 60 yellow birds. So
speaking of eagles, there's another community science project which we just started, and it's regarding golden eagles.
Oh, okay.
So last golden eagle pair that we had in Maine was in. I can't remember if it was in northern Franklin or northern Oxford County.
At Tumbledown.
It was in this area, yeah, and it was a nesting pair, but the last time they were here or documented was in the mid-1990s, and they never had success breeding, which really isn't that unusual for golden eagles. I mean, in the stronghold of the population is north of here in Canada. And we get some that winter and summer here, but we just haven't had any breeding birds, breeding golden eagles here. But we've started a project that's using camera traps. And these are game cameras that are set up on bait sites where golden eagles are coming in to feed and taking pictures. So we've got people who own land who are willing to have people, set up a camera with bait. We've got trappers who are willing to donate, like beaver carcasses to help attract the eagles. We've got photographers involved in this, and then also we've got people who are just identifying them with binoculars. So you can go to our website under the wildlife page. There's a community science link, and that project is on there. One of our longest projects, and we're still a couple months away from that, is our Maine amphibian and reptile project. And for over 30 years, we've been documenting things like, wood turtles, painted turtles, different types of snakes, blue spotted salamanders, and
fairy shrimp.
Yeah, it's not going to be long where vernal pools, and we're going to have that annual migration when salamanders and other amphibians are just going in great numbers to these vernal pools. And that's another project that you can get involved in. It's great if you have kids who want to get their hands wet, or they're muddy, and go in there and see what kind of salamanders or frogs or whatever is in these vernal pools. But that's another thing that you can do, sign up for, and really do it on your own time. You can be as involved as you want, or just kind of lightly involved.
I don't want to find any vernal pools on my property, so I'm not going to sign up for that one. I went through the legislature when it was trying to change the whole concept of it, and we did something somewhat meaningful with it, and it was really difficult to try to convince people. So it's better not to look. Sometimes.
A lot of people on both sides of that issue.
Oh, man, that was,
but it's funny. They're such a unique thing, and really so beneficial to the state. When you think of the contribution that amphibians and reptiles make to the state, and within the food chain, or as an indicator species that tell us how water quality is, or if pollution is becoming an issue, extremely valuable. And if you're a hunter, this past fall we had our two things with deer. We had early in the Deer Spy Project, where you could document what people were seeing for fawns. And then for those, voyeurs in the crowd, there was the Rut Watch come November, where if you saw deer mating, you could report it. But that gave us a good idea of, and it's still ongoing, obviously it's not the time of the rut, but next year we'll be doing it, gives us a good idea of, when that rut is, and, what we can do to protect deer, because we know if it's in mid-November, which really we feel, our deer biologist feels it happens like around the 13th through the 18th of November. We know come late May, early June, this is when the fawns are going to be coming, and this is a good time that we can get out messages to people. If you care, leave them there. Don't pick up fawns. So it's very beneficial to us as far as managing white-tailed deer, pinpointing when the rut is. Maine Bumblebee Survey, Maine Butterfly Survey, the Heron Project. Whatever you like for wildlife, I bet we have something for you.
So the golden eagles, have you found some?
Oh, yeah.
Are they up in this area? Or?
They're throughout the state. Just yesterday, Commissioner Camuso was sharing with me some photos that a friend had sent her from, it was in the Hiram, Porter, Limerick area, and this beautiful, majestic golden eagle, was right there on the ground. He was feeding on a beaver carcass that somebody put there. Pictures were pretty amazing. And, a lot of people confuse immature bald eagles with golden eagles. They're the same size. It takes about 5 years for a bald eagle to develop that white crest. So, for a long time, those juvenile eagles look like a golden eagle. But, one of the things that the most telltale sign, particularly when they're up close and you've got a good picture of them, is that, with a bald eagle, the talons, there's no feathers down to the talons. you'll see that kind of yellowish leg, but it's very exposed. With a golden eagle, it's got feathers all the way down to its feet. And so that's the easiest way to tell between the two. Of course, you got to be able to see somewhat up close, either with a camera or binoculars or whatever, but it's
interesting because it's kind of like the eagle story. It's like we don't have any eagles here until we came inland and started looking for them, and there they were. Yeah. It sounds like the same thing, and I think it was Stratton, in the Stratton-Eustis areas where that one was there, because I think Bob Duchesne told me one time that's where he saw a golden eagle.
Yeah.
Maybe we should put a beaver carcass up at Mount Blue Pond. Huh?
Yeah, we should.
See, we
could put a pile of perch or
a pile of fish or something. Yeah. Decided to bring in the bear that lives up there. I really don't want him around.
No, I don't blame you.
The big old moose that lives up there, but he won't eat the fish.
Yeah.
Mark, this is great. Anything real quick? We got about a minute left. These are all on the website, so we'll run the website right here so people can do it and they can look up those projects. And if you're interested in being part of that, it's great. That's really fascinating.
One of the things that's coming up is just looking ahead to spring. I don't know when I'm going to be back. Probably sooner rather than later.
Hopefully not. Hopefully everybody stays solid. But if Judy comes, you'll have to come when she comes.
Oh yeah. Well, we were saying Liz and I would like to come on together one time if you'd have us. Yeah. But yeah, we can talk about fishing and other things.
Want to do that show at Mount Blue Pond?
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll have to talk to Andre.
Yeah.
We could sit on my dock and talk about the pond.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
No, I think, people are impacted by the flood. Look for that individual assistance center. We've got the website on the show. That'd be great. If you're going out on the ice, be safe. Maine's a wonderful place to spend the winter outdoors, but, do it safely. Whether you're on a snowmobile or out ice fishing or snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, be safe when you're outdoors.
And if you're interested in being part of the department, there are opportunities to do there.
Our community science projects, we'd love to have you as part of the department.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh, you're
great
welcome.
As always.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in. Great information for you to be involved in. We'll see you next time on Talkin' Maine.